smart guy. Yeah, no, I consider Trevor to be one of my best friends. I don't know if you know that, but especially after that speech. What's amazing about Trevor is that he's got this aesthetic kind of imagination, right? He looks at things and he uses, I think, art to solve problems, right? Everything is always possible. I never get a no from him. Everything is always, well, we can try this and we can try that. And I think we need more of that. I think it's important to not be linear, to imagine how things can work together. And he's a great force, right? And you know, it's only the beginning for him and for Oakstop and for Abba Yehuda right here, who hung everything here and who's an amazing artist himself. And it's just a privilege to be working with him and to get his guidance in his curator capacity. Thank you, Abba, as well. Right and for lots of people that are here, that, you know, familiar faces and friends and supporters and people that I'm finally seeing here and who hadn't been before to my shows before, I appreciate your time and your interest. I'd like to acknowledge Kasra and Chris from the quantum folks there, the real scientists from LBL. One of the paintings downstairs, Searching for Symmetry, was purchased by one of my largest patrons and is being donated to the Advanced Quantum Testbed over at LBL. And it's a privilege to have you guys here, and always inspired by these guys that are doing amazing work. And lots of fellow artists here, photographers, and friends. So thanks for everyone being here. If I don't write stuff down, I ramble, so I have my handy little phone here, and I'm going to give a little chat. And then after my chat, I have Clive Matson. Where's Clive? Clive, back there. Clive is a great poet. He's a staple poet in San Francisco, and he has a poem that he's going to read after I speak here, and then maybe we have a little bit of time afterwards, if I don't run too long. But thanks for being here. So one of my strongest convictions about art is that art is useful for truth. Art enables truth. Art enables truth-seeking and understanding reality. Cézanne, the famous impressionist, which many of you probably know, is an artist that used painting to understand reality. He believed that nature could be understood through painting. His impressionist distortions of landscapes and nature were not really distortions. They were a bold effort to see more clearly, an effort to see beyond our senses, an effort to see beyond ordinary human representations of the visual world. And Cézanne was certainly not alone in his quest to use art as an instrument for truth. Representational and figurative art have certainly been used as tools for understanding or explaining truth. One can point to muralism or Renaissance painting as examples of how art was used to convey the truths of religion or social justice. Art has been connected to truth before in several ways. But there is a more abstract notion of truth that is relevant to my work. A notion that there is an ultimate reality out there, and that art can touch it, that art can help unveil a reality that we can't see through the naked eye. There's a notion that art can help us see better, that it can help us use imagination and creativity so that things in nature can be understood more clearly. There's a notion that art can help us attain objectivity. But how can art do that? How can art bring us closer to objective truth? Isn't that what science does? Isn't that what philosophers have been talking about for centuries? Plato's forms, the noumena, if you're a Kant fan. Why is art helpful for understanding truth? Well, art makes you see things. Art can assist the imagination. Art can inspire. Art can break boundaries and imagine alternative scenarios. It can be disruptive. Art can create an alternative reality, especially by aligning itself with technology now. Lots of new tools available for manipulating art. Art can bend the facts to create thought experiments. It can stretch logic beyond words. Art can create a narrative, as it did with muralism or as it did with religion. Art can inform and illustrate. These are all things that art can do to enable thinking and reflection. Thinking deeply about the truth of anything is a process. It's a process of trial and error. And it can be an ugly process, a slow process. even a wasteful process. It is often an ugly process before a beautiful outcome arises from that process, if it arises at all. But art helps. Art can help enable a process of reflection and truth-seeking. And this is how abstract art is somehow analogous to science. Science, too, is a process of trial and error. Science is messy. Science is like a drippy, abstract painting. It needs imagination and creativity to achieve resolution. And it ultimately needs to be precise. But you can't achieve innovative precision without new ideas. And it's usually not precision that leads to new ideas. Ideas come from engaging our imagination. The source of ideas that leads to progress in science has more to do with art than it does with mathematics or language. The source of ideas is the human mind, the human spirit. Reason, observation, and language and mathematics might glue ideas together. They are necessary to make ideas work. But ideas come from a vague, ineffable source that lies within us. There can't be ideas without observations and facts, of course, particularly when it comes to science. Science needs data. But the mysterious process that reconfigures facts to create new ideas comes from the human spirit. It comes from within. It is that mysterious source of ideas that is always present in my art. Every single painting I make touches on the indescribable essence of spirit. That is the source of imagination and creativity. Now, admittedly, the human spirit is a vague subject. A lot of scientists don't like it. It's perhaps mystical. No one agrees on what spirit means, or soul, or mind, or even consciousness. There's no precision when it comes to the subject, and science itself barely helps to define it without ruining its intuitive appeal. But I propose that the essence of abstract art in its purest form touches on the human spirit in a unique way. The human brain, where the spirit somehow lives, is touched by art intuitively. And so to the extent that science relies on creativity and imagination to innovate, one can make a strong case that art is capable of enhancing the scientific process. Drips and lines and color and layers, the search for balanced composition, this process can combine with scientific thinking to make science better, more inspired, better nourished from the source of ideas that lies within ourselves, within the cognitive faculties that somehow enable creativity and imagination. All of this doesn't mean, of course, that my art is merely an instrument for scientific thinking. That would be pretentious and untrue. I am an expressionist artist and a philosopher, not a scientist. My goal is to seek resolution of my own conscious experience. It is my exploration of my own spirit. My art is a template for problem solving at a personal level, for introspection, for improvising ideas and thoughts. Making art provides my thoughts with a different kind of logic, an aesthetic logic. A painting is done with aesthetic resolution is reached, and it is never reached without addressing the personal, introspective process that drives the painting. There is an aesthetic, intuitive logic that governs the process of painting, a logic that is fed by the spirit from a source that words cannot accurately describe, and which science cannot accurately study without hollow results. This is the source that guides my paintings. Someone recently said to me, "What is your story, though? What is the story behind the paintings? Why are your paintings not personal?" The answer is that every single painting is a personal story. Not a coherent narrative, not a linear anecdote or an orderly biographical account. My paintings are a convergence of imagined and real occurrences, a convergence of actuality, possibility, fact, fiction, past, present, reason, emotion, success, failure. My paintings are all about hope. They're a form of agnostic prayer. They comprise a personal process of trial and error. They are a process for arriving at personal truth. My proposal is that the process of personal truth that I address with my art can be useful for scientific inquiry. My compositions are templates for imagination and creativity that science can extrapolate from. My contribution to science as an artist is to provide art that can be used to expand the possibilities of scientific thinking. Art that is created from the spirit, with an intuitive, creative logic that science can feed upon. I am proposing that personal subjectivity is a template for expanding the objectivity of science. And this suggests, in somewhat esoteric terms, that subjectivity has utility for objectivity. the individual aesthetic experiences of an artist are instrumental for science. This is relevant because art and science typically function separately. Science embraces reason and mathematics as a language, typically rejecting the more emotional and spiritual language of art. Science has typically been a force against subjective personal truth and strives for objectivity and truth based on observable evidence. But my contention is that subjective truth and objective truth can work together. My contention is that art can enable the production of ideas that lead to scientific discovery. I believe science would improve dramatically if art was a regular part of doing science, a regular part of engaging in the scientific method. In an ideal world, all scientists should also be artists. Some consider themselves artists. In an ideal world, scientists would use an aesthetic calculus to engage their creativity and imagination to solve scientific problems. But the next best thing is a collaborative effort. If I can collaborate with scientists and use the language of science in my paintings, I can collaboratively combine my personal truth-seeking as an artist with the objective truth-seeking that scientists engage in. Because my thesis is that scientists can feed upon the language of aesthetics to nurture their understanding of nature. My thesis is that the language of aesthetics belongs in the development of scientific theories and practice. My thesis is that personal truth-seeking in abstract art is a tool for scientific progress. Of course, an artist can just stop at personal truth. I could just indulge in my creative process and explore my own world, my own experiences, my own truth-seeking, and in fact, this is what I'm always doing. As I said before, art is a daily agnostic prayer for me, a way of making things okay, a personal and addictive meditation. So why even involve science in my thinking? Why should I seek scientists to collaborate with? Why am I fascinated by their equations and their notes and their way of thinking? Perhaps it's their fascination with the truth. I think it's a big reason why I want to be around scientists. I'm personally fascinated with the truth, always have been. I like truth-seeking in people that engage in it at all levels, spiritually, politically, religiously, philosophically. But truth-seeking of science commands my attention because I feel a sense of urgency. There is a moral aspect to my story. Science is not all great and wonderful. Technology is great and the product of scientific progress and thinking, but technology is also pretty dangerous. Technology and science save lives and make us live longer, but they give us nuclear weapons. Science and technology give us smartphones and social media, but we are addicted to screens and our attention spans seem to be getting shorter and shorter. We are more and more susceptible to political propaganda as a result of technology and the way information is monetized and disseminated. Technology creates lies more quickly than ever and can shape public opinion in the blink of an eye. It can be said that science and technology that are actually responsible for the science and technology are actually responsible for global warming and carbon emissions. They say we must innovate or perish as a species, and that's probably true. But it's very troubling that we need new technology to reverse the environmental harms of existing and past technology. I think the technology and science need help from art, from a moral standpoint. I believe the presence of art in laboratories and research institutions can inspire scientists to do science for the sake of knowledge, for the sake of truly helping humanity understand what this all means. We don't understand things as we should. And my sense is that understanding things more deeply with art will steer science and technology in a different direction from a moral standpoint. I want to look at the Webb telescope images and be amazed at the beauty that the universe reveals. But I want to understand what that beauty means, because currently we don't. It is my contention that knowledge breeds greater morality. The more we know, the better we will behave as a species. But knowledge and science cannot just be a breeding ground for technology and ways to make money from it. We should not stop at understanding how the universe works so that we can have satellites, computers, and nuclear weapons. We must dare to ask what the universe is and not just how the universe is. This talk today is not just about sound waves hitting your senses for your brain cells to extrapolate linguistic meaning. These paintings are not just atoms and molecules. There's a greater truth going on. Something spectacular and awesome is out there, and we are a part of it, and science alone can't reveal what it is. It is time to discover what this thing is, not just for philosophical or intellectual indulgence, but for the sake of moral progress and survival. Art is, as Gerhard Richter says, our highest form of hope. I would say that art and science together are our highest form of hope. Thank you.